A secret buried for decades accidentally surfaces on the Kremlin's own website. Thousands of American troops are quietly flooding into the Middle East, while Trump is already talking about hugs with Xi Jinping. Britain is sending Ukraine over 120,000 drones. And at a memorial site where thousands of Polish officers were massacred, Russia just opened a propaganda exhibition. The world isn't slowing down. It's accelerating, and not toward peace. Let's get into it. Donald Trump woke up this week in a particularly confident mood, and he made sure everyone knew about it. The US president publicly claimed that China has promised not to arm Iran. According to Trump, Beijing is deeply invested in keeping the Strait of Hormuz open, and therefore won't be sending weapons to Tehran. He framed it almost like a personal diplomatic triumph. His words, his deal, his win. But here's where it gets interesting. China said nothing. No confirmation, no statement, no press release, just silence from Beijing, which, in diplomatic language, can mean almost anything. Trump didn't stop there. He posted that Chairman Xi would, quote, give him a big hug when he visits in a few weeks. He called their relationship smart and productive, and then, almost in the same breath, reminded the world that America is, in his words, very good at fighting, if necessary. So which is it? A warm partnership built on mutual interest? Or a veiled threat wrapped in diplomatic language? Here's what we actually know on the ground. The Pentagon is sending thousands of additional troops to the Middle East. Not hundreds, thousands. American officials now confirm that approximately 50,000 U.S. troops are already positioned in the region, with enough firepower to deploy 3 aircraft carrier groups simultaneously. That's not the posture of a country that's winding down. That's a country that's loading the table before sitting down to negotiate. Now, here's a detail that nobody seems to be talking about loudly enough. Both Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump are reportedly planning visits to Beijing in May, possibly at the same time. The Kremlin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed that Putin's trip to China is actively being prepared, though no dates have been officially set. Russian state media is already whispering about the second half of May, and Trump also eyeing Beijing, also in May. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. Probably not. Back in February, Xi Jinping personally invited Putin to China. That invitation is now turning into reality. And the more Moscow describes China as its especially privileged strategic partner, the more obvious it becomes. Without Beijing, Russia's international standing would look dramatically weaker right now. If both leaders end up on the same soil at the same moment, the optics alone will send a message to Washington, to Brussels, to Kyiv, whether anyone intends it or not. Across the region, another fragile piece is wobbling. Turkish President Erdogan stepped forward this week, essentially announcing that Ankara is working overtime to stop the US-Iran negotiations from completely collapsing. He said Turkey is in active contact with Washington, Tehran, and Pakistan, which is serving as a mediator, trying to extend the pause, reduce tensions, and keep diplomats at the table. His message was blunt. You cannot negotiate with clenched fists. He also called out Israeli strikes on Lebanon directly, warning that ongoing military action is destroying whatever slim chances for a deal still exist. It's a delicate position for Turkey, trying to play peacemaker in a room where every party has its own reasons to walk out. Erdogan admits the process is stuck, particularly on the nuclear question, but he's not ready to declare it dead. The question is, how long can a ceasefire survive on hope alone? And then there's J.D. Vance. The U.S. Vice President said this week, at a Senate event in front of cameras, that cutting funding for Ukraine is one of the things he is most proud of in this administration. He told the story of a Ukrainian-American man from Cleveland who confronted him about it. The man was frustrated. Vance's response? He said he still believes it, completely, and he'd say it again. We've simply walked away from it, Vance said, and that's a very good thing. These aren't off-the-cuff remarks from a junior official. This is the second most powerful person in the United States on record, saying that abandoning an ally under fire is something worth celebrating. Trump compounded this by once again attacking NATO, accusing the alliance of failing to support the U.S. during the conflict with Iran. The White House is no longer speaking in the language of alliance. It's speaking in the language of debts and resentments. The message to Europe is now unmistakably clear. If you want to defend Ukraine, write your own check. The old American role is over. Meanwhile, something unusual happened this week, and it happened on the Kremlin's own website. For a brief moment, the name and photo of Igor Rotenberg appeared in connection with a February meeting on Russia's chemical industry. Rotenberg attended as chairman of the board of a company called Roskhim. Then, quickly, the information disappeared. Name gone. Photo gone. Scrubbed. But the internet remembers. Roskhim has quietly become one of the biggest recipients of assets flowing from Russia's ongoing wave of nationalization. Companies squeezed out through legal pressure or the reversal of old privatizations. The Bashkir Soda Company, Metafrax, and other major chemical enterprises have all ended up under its umbrella. The Rotenberg family's connection to Putin is not a state secret, but their direct involvement in this specific redistribution of industrial assets. That was supposed to stay quiet. A single unguarded moment on an official government website just made it considerably less quiet. Now, the news out of London. Britain has announced what might be the most significant military package Ukraine has received in months. Over 120,000 drones to be delivered within a single year. The first batches arrived in April. These aren't just surveillance drones. The package includes long-range strike drones, maritime drones, and logistics aircraft. On top of that, over 100,000 artillery shells and thousands of air defense missiles. To understand the scale, this is roughly comparable to the entire volume of civilian drones that Ukraine was previously importing from China and converting for battlefield use. London is now attempting to fill that gap entirely on its own, through British manufacturers and within the framework of its long-standing military commitment to Kyiv. At a moment when American support has officially been declared over, Britain is signaling something different. Not symbolic solidarity, not diplomatic statements. Hardware. Delivered. Now. Whether it changes the equation on the front lines depends on how fast it moves, and how effectively Ukraine can deploy it. Some stories are difficult to describe without using the word obscene. This is one of them. At Katyn, the site in Russia where more than 4,000 Polish military officers were executed by Stalin's NKVD, a new exhibition has just opened. Its title, 10 Centuries of Polish Russophobia. Let that sink in. At a mass grave, at a memorial for victims of Soviet state murder, Russia has built an exhibition about how much Poland hates Russia. Visitors are told about the hatred of Russia by the Polish elite, about Poland's historical aggression, about Russophobia as a cultural phenomenon. The execution of thousands of Polish officers, carried out in secret, denied for decades, only officially acknowledged by Moscow in 1990, is barely mentioned. The exhibition opened just days before Poland's annual Katyn Remembrance Day, observed on April 13th. This is not an accident. The timing is deliberate. The location is deliberate. The message is deliberate. Even your dead can be used against you. Turkey is in shock this week, and not for a political reason. In the southern city of Kahramanmaraş, a high school student opened fire at his own school. 3 students were killed. 20 more were wounded. 4 remained in surgery for serious injuries as of the latest reports. It was the second school shooting in Turkey within 48 hours. Just one day earlier, a shooting at a school in Şanlıurfa province left at least 16 people injured, most of them children. Authorities were quick to say the incidents are isolated, but 2 shootings, 2 schools, 2 days. The question Turkey is now asking isn't only about who pulled the triggers. It's about what has changed in these spaces that were supposed to be the safest places in any child's day. And finally, a development from Russia that deserves more attention than it's getting. The Russian Prosecutor General's office has formally proposed giving law enforcement agencies access to citizens' mobile phone data, without a court order. No judge, no warrant, no legal process, just access. The official justification? It will help find fugitives, locate missing persons, and track people evading justice. Efficient, practical, reasonable in their framing. But step back and look at the trajectory. Russia has already been tightening its grip on the internet for years, blocking VPNs, restricting foreign platforms, throttling connections. Now the proposal is to go further, into the device in your pocket, without asking permission from anyone except the security services themselves. For the millions of Russians who still use their phones to communicate anything sensitive, this proposal, if adopted, is the end of that. A secret leaks from the Kremlin. Britain floods Ukraine with drones. Trump embraces China while deploying 50,000 troops. A memorial for murder victims becomes a propaganda stage. And Russia wants your phone, no questions asked. Every one of these stories connects to a single thread. The world's power structures are shifting, and the friction that creates is visible everywhere. On front lines, in courtrooms, in schools, and on government websites that someone forgot to scrub in time. Stay sharp. More tonight.